honestly. Like, they have to exist together. And this really brings me back to like the early days of television. Not that I was around for the early days of television. Okay, this is just in my studies. No, but in doing a lot of studies, when we're talking about like YouTube and whether churches should be on there, and we're talking about like the fact that talking head media in a liturgical format is one of the fastest dying types of media, except for thought leaders. So why did churches want to stick a guy walking around just talking, preaching at you about something instead of sharing in this community building type of format that YouTube is specifically designed to, and their algorithm is designed to push forward, right?
Okay, hey, in this episode, we're going to give our thoughts on the role of online content and what does it look like and how can we bolster in-person services. Thank you guys for joining us so much. And today we have Jordan over here.
Hey.
We have Sean and Caleb joining us. No Eric today because he's not here. So
We miss you.
Well, that explains it. I wondered why he wasn't here.
Hey, we'll let him speak his truth.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not going to put a story in his mouth.
Who knows where that's been?
Jeez.
I'm not going to make excuses for him.
Kissing his mother.
That's right.
Okay, so today's episode is sorry, Sean, you've just like completely thrown me off track here.
That's what I'm here for.
That's the only reason why you're here. It's just to throw us.
That's why I'm here. Hi, I'm comic relief.
Okay, so I thought about this and I wanted to throw it out to the crew. And the question I had was, with the way the content is growing online and how it's going as well, do we have to change how we operate on in-person services? And so let me expound on that. So when you start to think about how the science behind YouTube content, the 7 to 10 minutes, type thought process, how close it is, how it's lit.
Short attention spans.
And now even more so with like the introduction of shorts and TikToks, reels, that kind of stuff. Obviously we're not going to make our services 60 seconds long. So that's not what I'm talking about. But like the 7 to 11-ish minutes that a YouTube video is supposed to be in to keep everyone's like attention. Like, do we start to change how we're doing things to keep people's attention? Because like right now, I think on average, most services are 30 to 45 minutes worth of worship, and then between 30 and 45 minutes worth of speaking. And then you add announcements or communion or anything else in there, videos, whatever. Yeah. You can be hour and a half to 2 hours. Like, I mean, Caleb, I think our average service is an hour and a half to 2 hours right now.
Yeah, easily. Hour 45 on the average, probably.
Yeah. And so I just kind of started thinking about like with these attention spans that we've been talking about, like, do we change that? And is that affecting our in-person? Because we've been seeing in-person across the board start to kind of go down. Obviously pandemic kind of amplified that with
definitely
online and not being able to go places and those kind of things. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there and like see what you guys had to say.
Well, the short answer is yes. I think we need to change some things up. I've said my piece. I'll be back next week.
Skeletor will be back.
I'll be back. Anyways, no, I do feel like some things need to change. I think what a lot of people are looking for if they're coming to a live thing is more chance to engage with one another in a community establishment type of thing. And a lot of places, a lot of services I've been in, 3 hours and stuff like that. It's a lot of, I want to say pomp and circumstances because that's an easy word to throw out there, but it's just getting through the motions of the business. We got to take care of this. We got to give you the 50,000 announcements. We got to take your offering. We got to do these things,
right.
Blah, blah, blah. And then by the time we get down to the message part and the ability for people to like take that in and then maybe have a chance to commune with one another over that type of stuff, it's like, man, I got to go home. My stomach is turning, like it's rumbling. The kids are hungry. Something's going on. I got to get them out of nursery.
Or you're getting
children's ministry.
Or you're getting yelled at because the children's ministry person's like, "You're the children. Are the last ones in here.
Come get your kids." Yeah,
Please.
yeah.
You're not allowed to leave your children in nursery. We're not daycare. Wait a minute, aren't you?
It's not free daycare.
That's it. Wait, that's not a thing.
No.
So I have to come back from the mall now?
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
Them all?
Goodness.
Again?
You can keep this one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think there needs to be an emphasis on that kind of stuff because, not that we have to shorten, like you said, everything down to 10 minutes live, But then again, does your service need to be live either? That to me is a whole other question.
Yeah, and I mean that's something that like we've been questioning, and we just started talking about that for a couple of different things. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think there's that connection piece, and I think how that connection piece is utilized, I think is the important thing because they can feel weird. They can throw flows of service off if they're not done correctly, and I think. I don't know. I mean, and throw this back at me. I think for me, Caleb, like the biggest thing that I like about the connection pieces is like when we've done our activation services where like the sermon becomes a 10 or 15 minute sermon. And then it's all right, now we're going to put into practice what we just talked about. And it's like, we're going to go and start praying for people. We're going to do communion as, family groups, those kind of things. Those make that 30 to 45 minutes feel like I want more rather than less. And so it's like, I think that's kind of like what I'm talking about. And you put it into words really well, where it's like that thing about YouTube is like, I have an attention span of 10 or 15 minutes, but I could watch a 35-minute Casey Neistat, video because I'm being entertained and I like what he's doing. And, he's keeping me, the pacing of his video is like changing that type thought process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have been kind of thinking about like what's the benefit of bringing Sunday morning to somebody live versus kind of what we've been throwing around of like just kind of like cutting some stuff up and then, like just producing it a little bit more and
to be intentional
with it, right? And like so I guess for us, like, I'm just going to spill the whole thing. Like the thing that we're trying to get over is in our service, like we do the 40-ish minutes of worship and then we do communion announcements and then we take a 3-minute break. And if you're online, are the people watching and nobody ever comes back for the message, right?
Yeah. I mean, I watch our analytics and it's literally like worship ends and it's just,
right.
There's no one's watching.
So then you might pick up some people that are now browsing around 11 a.m., for a church starting around 11. And then maybe some people jump in for the sermon at that point because we start at 10 a.m. But the idea was like, okay, so maybe take some like, let's find a way to get like videos ahead so that we're not broadcasting live. We've got a sermon from maybe last week or the week before. And I've been thinking like maybe just 2 songs from worship or something, and put it in one 45-minute video with pre-produced announcements, that kind of stuff that kind of still flows the same as a service at DCC, but is not, totally live and totally as drawn out because in person, that experience is very different. You can engage with worship, in my opinion, very, very differently in person than in your living room, just with the sound coming out of your TV. Not everybody's crazy about audio like us and has 6 HomePods in their living room and like all this crazy, like
not everybody,
right? That's a surprise.
Yeah. I mean, and to kind of add to that is that idea of like, we want more people in person.
Right.
Like that's our point and our emphasis is like we want community.
Yeah. And so if we're giving them the best of that online in an easy to consume way, it, in my head at least, like would hopefully draw them into maybe coming to the full thing if they knew like, oh man, those 2 songs of worship were pretty great. And they do like 45 minutes of that. That would make me want to go, to like know that, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I've always asked like pre-pandemic, when we would have clients that are like, we need to live stream because like pre-pandemic, obviously not nearly as many people were live streaming. And I would always ask the question of like, well, what's the vision? Like, who is this for? And, because like I had people that wanted to spend $50,000 on a camera system for the 3 people that get sick twice a year. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Maybe throwing a single camera up that's like a wide shot so that they can still be a part of it because they don't want to miss, but it's like, are you, okay, there are some, communities that make 50% snowbirds. And so like we lose half of the population of our church once wintertime hits and they still want to be a part of what's going on because like they've been going to this church for, 50 years And now like we have the capability of letting them be a part of that still. That makes more sense to spend some more money in there. But then it's like then there's the level of like what I think TV cameras are designed for. And that's to like reach people, create content that like the internet wants. Like, there are specific, like you can see a difference between a church service that's being recorded and a intentional video recorded for YouTube. Like there's like, you can definitely tell the difference there, And so I would rather see more focus be put into podcast creating and content driven things for the church rather than, like live streaming. And I think that sometimes those go hand in hand. And I think, like me and you, Sean, have talked about that. Like we went over Brady's whole video about like why you shouldn't live stream. And I was pretty anti that. And like, I think I've come around to be on the same page as him because I think it makes more sense. And there's so many ways that like we can simulate a live stream. Like you were saying, is like our plan is to record, edit it, make it a little bit more intentional for the online viewer. Cause like now we're not getting like, the announcement person saying, what was that, Susie? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Like we can't even hear Susie. Like now it's like this intentional, like looking at the camera and saying, hey,
poor Susie,
we really want you to, engage with us in this whole like specific thing, type thought process. And it just makes people more like connected to you and your church in that scenario. So,
well, and then you can be driving invitation to come from those videos without having to like drive that in service as well. If you're just like, you know what I mean? You can, like you said, be intentional with the audience.
Right. It's always, it's always awkward for a pastor to go, hey, by the way, like and subscribe, smash that like button. Yeah. Stephen Furtick will do something similar when he's hitting a message or a point. He'll say, turn to your neighbor and say, blah, blah, blah. Put it in the chat. Because he understands that there's, a couple Sundays ago I watched and there was like 70,000 people watching live between the three channels that they're on.
Slightly more viewers.
Well, and that was something I wanted to say was that this conversation is not for those types of churches. If you have like an established live stream and all this stuff that you've been doing before pandemic and you've got like, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like all these churches that are trying to get around the corner of, we started streaming during the pandemic. And now we're kind of struggling with why to keep doing it maybe. Or do we need to change up the way we're doing it to reach people better now that we're not just trying to get church to everybody because they have to stay home?
The people that have like 10 viewers, not the people that have a few hundred, a few thousand.
Yeah. Anyways. I think it's just, it's knowing your audience, right? I mean, if it is those snowbirds, they're going to want to see the whole full-blown shebang. If you are just trying to get, maybe you're in a more unchurched area,
closer,
you may want to get those people that are just going to kind of church shop a little bit and just want something a little bit smaller package. So,
yeah.
I think the other thing is too, is just going back to the question is like, what do we need to change about in-person service to increase stream? I think about just, again, even the audience, just insulating those audiences. And if you can make a stream and content specifically for stream people versus in-room person, then you free up both of those audiences. Hey, we can talk specifically about people that are here in the room versus people that are here that are never going to be in the room and they're just online. So
so I talked with Chad Vegas, who was out at Bethel for a while, and he's considered like one of the pioneers of like cinematic church live stream stuff, like taking it away from that broadcast and like making it feel like, a movie, type thing.
Gotcha.
And when I was talking with him, he said that what they had to do is they had to make the choice because they weren't really like, they had Bethel TV, but it was just, again, one of those, like, we just want our content online. Like they didn't really, like there was no real thought process into it outside of just get it online so that people can have it.
Just being there. Yeah.
And I think that's fine. Like, I don't think that there's a problem. And, obviously like Bethel holds more weight than a majority of churches in our atmosphere. But they made the conscious decision of, no, we're going to do this. We're going to do this really well. And we're going to make the online stuff more of a priority. So like they light things for their cameras.
Yeah.
And, and that's not saying that their in-service is just completely forgotten about, but before, like, I don't know have any of you guys like followed Bethel for like the last like 10 years or so?
I wouldn't say
they didn't really do much production, 10 years ago. Like it was like house lights on, some stage lights, and they had some like trees and a projector screen. And that was kind of it. And then they were like, okay.
Jesus Culture, Kim Walker kind of.
Yeah.
During that phase, like
Yeah.
the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that.
And so when they made this decision that like, hey, we're going to, up this like ante, I guess, but we're going to do it for TV. They didn't really have a problem with that because it was like, well, we need it brighter for the camera. Okay. Well, we just went from a full bright room to darker room, more controlled, production, LED wall, stage dressings now.
Yep.
Cool. Well, they can have that option of making the lights look kind of however they want to. And no one in the congregation is really going to care, but
Well, and that's the thing is I think with the technology and gear and, and a bit of knowledge too, you can do both. You can accomplish both nowadays.
Yeah.
Lighting for TV, but then it still looks really good in person.
Yeah.
Shooting for TV, internet stream, but it still looks good on iMac and whatnot. So
I mean, when we've got broadcast cameras that now have 13 stops at dynamic range and things like that, and we're no longer kind of like beholden to, especially if you're live streaming it. I mean, we're still in the Rec 709 color space, but we've easing our way into 2020 and beyond as far as color space stuff goes, and all the HDR TV stuff and cameras that capture. So I think Jordan's totally right, spot on there. Yeah, if you're watching it on your iPhone, you're fine. You're going to see it, but it's like, light it how you want it to look in person. The cameras can pick up the slack nowadays.
Yeah. But I do think you got to be mindful of like, hey, where is our content going? If it's on social, then hey, this is living beyond Sunday.
Yeah.
We need to consider lighting this and shooting this for that content. I'm not saying shoot it for, vertical screen. Like that's just silly in my opinion.
Yeah.
But hey, maybe we do need 4K so that we can flip it around and go vertical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so like, okay, so talking about that, so now we're in the realm of like, if we're shooting things for social, do we do head-to-toe shots for vertical video specifically? And, so you have two cameras next to each other. You have the one that's the Texas shot, belt buckle up, and then you have the head-to-toe vertical shot. And like both of those people are following Pastor back and forth. And now you have dedicated like normal 16:9 footage, and you have vertical 16:9 footage. Sorry, 9:16 footage.
So here's the answer. You do what I do. You shoot it in 6K open gate.
Just
So-
punch in.
It's a 6K open gate, which means it's a square, like a 4:3 square, like
wow.
like how film has always been captured, right? And this kind of thing. But it's 6K, so it's well beyond your 4K. So you're not going to stream in 4K. You can do 1080, so you could probably take that down to like a 2K open gate. But it's open gate, so you can slice out of it your vertical or this, and you're not losing anything that you'd want to have out of it. Yeah.
Okay, so
interesting.
let's pause real quick. And I want to enter a new. I'm like switching too, so I keep forgetting to switch back to myself for video. I want to enter in a new phase in our podcast, and let's do some trivia. So I'm going to ask the question. We're going to think about it maybe, and then at the end we'll answer like the question. So I'm going to start us off real simple. Okay. Do you know?
So wait, you're just asking now and you want our answers later.
Yes. Don't
Okay.
answer now. Don't blurt it out.
Okay.
Okay. What does XLR stand for? Okay.
I honestly do not know,
Okay.
but I'm not an audio guy, so
All right. Well, we're going to think about it.
Examine life. No.
right
Right
now. Oh, jinx.
I'm sensing a new podcast coming up. Welcome to XLR.
We just created a new one. Jordan, you've got a note here. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, one of the church thinkers I kind of follow, and I don't know that I necessarily subscribe to everything he says, but it's interesting, and I love just hearing kind of critical thoughts. Carrie Nieuwhof has kind of just said that like in 2032, so we did this whole thing in the beginning here about churches in 2032. Growing churches will be digital organizations with physical locations. I thought that was kind of interesting as we talk about this about, churches. He's not saying they're going away. They're chill out, people. But he is saying like, as we move more into a digital space and online, the churches will have a physical address, but they also need to play in that space, that virtual space as well. I mean, it's kind of like, no duh.
So
I thought that was kind of interesting. He has a lot of other things to say. You can look him up. So
yeah, so I listen to Brady's podcast all the time, obviously.
Yeah.
Hence why he was on my YouTube channel and interviewed. They talked about Passion Conference this year. Did anyone listen to Passion Conference with Louis Giglio?
No.
I'm aware of it. I don't.
So
I haven't heard the name Louis Giglio in years.
well, so I mean, he started Passion. He speaks every year there.
Well, I know, but I haven't heard his name in
Safe
forever.
to say he didn't pay attention to Passion this year either.
I mean, so yeah, but Passion is huge. There's like 50,000, 60,000 people in that arena, and I don't remember the exact wording, but he pretty much said that social media was stupid and like worthless, and that like the people in that room were a bigger deal than people online. And he kind of like went down this whole path, and it was go back and listen to it. And in the show notes, I'll link Brady's podcast because they actually listen to his like what he says, and it's like he literally is saying not that like it's bad, like that that. Hang on, let me gather my words here. Like he thinks that there's more of an impact for people in the physical room than online, and that it's like pointless for you in your church to have social media accounts. Brady's argument was that they thought it was hilarious that Passion has a verified Twitter account, a verified YouTube channel, a verified Facebook account, a verified Snapchat account, an Instagram account, and a TikTok account, all verified. And that you can pin videos in TikTok. And so he's like, okay, so you have 60,000 people in this arena. Let's add the 3 top pin videos on your TikTok account. That's 2.7 million views.
I was going to say. Yeah.
Tell me how that's not more of an effect in the world than 60,000 people in an arena.
Yeah. And probably some of those 6,000 are that 2 point. Whatever.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
And Brady's argument is not that we don't need the in-person, but when you have these people that are like just kind of pooping on online stuff, it's like your very account has millions of views.
They need to be symbiotic, honestly. Like they have to exist together. And this really brings me back to like the early days of television. Not that I was around for the early days of television. Okay, this is just in my studies.
Sean, how old are you actually?
He's actually eternal.
Yeah, I'm part of the old guard. So, anyways, now I'm going to lose my train of thought. And that's easy for me. No, but in doing a lot of studies, when we're talking about like YouTube and whether churches should be on there, and we're talking about like the fact that talking head media in a liturgical format is one of the fastest dying types of media, except for thought leaders. So why did churches want to stick a guy walking around just talking, preaching at you about something instead of sharing in this community building type of format that YouTube is specifically designed to, and their algorithm is designed to push forward, right? But you get into this argument that churches may have. Some are very much against social media altogether, against YouTube, against these different things, just like they were against television and film and media. And then you look at them now and they're just like begging to be a part of it, having to pay extra money to be a part of things that were being given away for free at one point. And so, yeah, I think they go together. It's not like, hey, let's not look at a format with fear. And I'm not, that's not kind of what we're talking about today, but like, let's not look at YouTube with fear and say, we don't want any part to do with that or any, social media or whatnot, or there's no point in you having any of it, because for some people that may be the only part of your church they're ever going to see, whether they're a shut-in or they've got,
International.
Yeah. International or something like that. And your voice speaks to them. But whether you're called to do it or not, I think is kind of the bigger picture there. But I can't agree with Mr. Giglio there on that. It makes me giggle. Yeah.
So I mean, okay, so let's expound on this a little bit. So then what's the current and future role of in-person gathering then, with where we are going with all of this, like everyone's live streaming, like there's multiple platforms that do it. There's all this content to be, absorbed and consumed.
Well, I think another question too that I think for a lot of like online pastors and teams also need to answer is even online the ultimate, or is in person the ultimate? Like, are we eventually trying to drive people to come here in through our doors? That's a really good question. Like, what is the ultimate step there?
See, and
or maybe not even our doors. Maybe it's, hey, a church that's down the street from them, wherever they're at.
And I think, so let's talk about that for a second. Like, because, I grew up in a really big church. Like when I was in high school, it was, honestly, it was probably one of the biggest ones in the country at that time. And I heard the argument a lot. It's not about how many people are in this building. And I was like, but isn't it really though? I mean, because like if you're in the building, it means that you're there for a reason. You want to be a part of what God is doing. You want to learn. You want to have community, like those kind of things. Like I get that it's not about the being able to say that, oh, we have 17,000 people in our church on Sunday morning and you only have 200. Like I get that that's not the point, but like the terminology of like, no, it is about having like, it's a great thing that you can get 16,000 people to gather for wanting to worship and learn about Jesus Christ. Like that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Like no one thinks that it's, you know, like when they see the Super Bowl parade for the Kansas City and there's hundreds of thousands of people down there. Well, it's not about the numbers. It's just about that they won the game. Like, no one's saying that. Like they're looking at that going, holy crap, there's a ton of people there. Like that's amazing. Who can have the biggest crowd? And so like I look at that and I go, no, it is about the numbers within reason, as long as like that terminology is understood and whatnot. And so
I think as long as too, is you're not doing something just for the numbers.
right. Yeah. But like I agree, like we want people to come and join us
right
in person because
that's Christianity 101.
Scripturally, we're supposed to gather, like being able to lay hands on each other, be able to communicate. Where two and more are gathered. You know, like there's so many references.
Baptizing, discipling,
Yeah.
sharing the good news. I mean, that's,
So again, I think it comes down to like, what's the point? And like that question is, what is the role of in-person gathering versus online? And we've looked at it, a lot of people have looked at it as the same thing. And I think that that's inaccurate.
I think the way you do them probably can't be the same thing, but I've been sitting way over here looking at a couple different translations of this, but Mark 16, 15, and 16. Still later, as the 11 were eating supper, he appeared to them and he took them to task most severely for their stubborn unbelief, refusing to believe those that had seen him raised up. So basically, like, you know, Jesus appeared to the 11 after he'd already risen from the dead and like took them to task. I like that. Most severely for telling people, no, there's no way you saw Jesus raised from the dead. Then he said to them, go into the world, go everywhere and tell everyone, announce the message of God's good news to one and all. And so I like your gatherings are like one, in my opinion, like a place where you kind of bring the family in, right? And spend time. Wow, I feel like I'm just going to go for it. So the Jewish people have this tradition when they would go to worship, going to temple. There was a journey of that. Some people have broken that down into like seven stages of worship, or like seven. I'll be quick. I know we're trying to keep this under 30 minutes or whatever.
No, you're
All right,
good.
Cool. Some people have broken down. And so it started with like everybody, so they knew it was time to go to temple. And so everybody's leaving their houses and they're walking to temple. And as they're going, they're telling each other about what God has done for them since the last time they went to temple, right? And as the journey progresses, slowly things turn towards like, so they are telling each other, let's remind each other of how good God is. Then let's start directing that praise to him. We're thankful. These are your attributes. This is who you are, you know, thankfulness, and then, you know, supplication, that kind of stuff. And then it eventually turns into holy, holy, holy. That should kind of be the last, like you are just fell before him, before who he is. And that is, in my opinion, like, so you take that aspect of it, like, let's get everybody together. Let's spend time doing this so that we all in turn worship God. And then we need to like spend time maybe being rebuked or like just hearing from God, hearing what he has to teach us to then turn around and take out into the world. Right. And I think that trying to get like more people on board with that should just be like your number one goal, no matter what way to do it. And if you, and kind of like I said last episode, the internet is not a fad.
Yeah.
And like to not use it as a tool is to just be like ignoring Mark 16 and not going into all the world and announcing it to the best of your ability.
There's something that happened with my sister like a year ago that like really made me like think about like, you know, like when you have a belief and then like someone says something, you're like, that's how to articulate what I believe. And I've never been able to do that. She decided to, like, she lives in the Detroit area and she really wanted to go to Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry. Well, they didn't offer online classes because of the pandemic. They ended up doing it because they couldn't meet in person. They're in California, blah, blah, blah. So she was like, cool, I'm going to do this online. And in one of, I don't know what class it was, but like in one of her classes, like there was something where they were like, you know, like the teacher called her out, like, hey, we asked this question, you didn't raise your hand. Like, I feel like the Lord's telling me that you need something. And she's in her room, and one of her kids walks in, and they're like, my sister's telling me the story, and she's like, and they know they're not supposed to come in during specific times because I'm in class. And she's like, hey, you're not supposed to be in here. And the teacher was like, oh, is that your son? Is that your son? Like, bring him in here. Bring him in here. What's his name? What's his name? Tells the name. And the woman's like, says to my nephew, the Lord is saying that like, we asked this question and your mom didn't answer, didn't raise her hand. The Lord knows that she needs blank. And he sent you in here for your mom. And can you give your mom a hug? And then this woman, like, prays over my sister with hitting my microphone. Has put his hands on there. And so my sister's telling me the story. She's like, so after the class wrapped up, she's like, hey, like, why did you come in here? She's like, because you called me. And she's like, I didn't call you. He's like, no, my brother had his AirPods in, was listening to music, and was like, yo, bro, mom's calling you, go. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I got up and just came in because, like, he heard you calling him. And she's like, I did not call you. Like, that was obviously, like, God is doing that whole thing. And I was like, oh, that's super powerful. And she's like, yeah. She's like, and it was really cool because they just got done telling the story about how they weren't going to do the online stuff. And then they were like, we're limiting, because like they want that in person so badly at the school. And they're like, we're limiting the fact that, like, we think that the Holy Spirit can't move through a video conference. And I believe Chris Valentin mentioned the story of the Roman soldier that was like, no, like, you don't even have to go. I know if you say it, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus didn't have to physically go and be there and do those things. Like, he just said it and it happened. Like, and that's what we're talking about now. And I was like, that's the articulation. Like, we can't limit God and the Holy Spirit, what it can do through these things. Like a podcast that we record now, 3 years from now, like I listened to like Chris, and he'll say like, hey, like, I want to, pray a prayer over you guys for empowering and emboldening you guys to do whatever. So if you're driving your car, like, open your sunroof, stick your hands out the window, whatever, it's like, some cool symbols. And it's like, I'm listening to these like podcasts from like 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm like, cool, I'll take that, and it's like, I can feel the Spirit like coming on me in that moment, and it's like thinking and having that realization of like, this is something that was recorded years ago, and is still, the Spirit of the Lord is on that audio recording for anyone at any point in time to stumble across that. And I'm like, those are the things that, like, I need to, like, get people to, like, understand why we want to do this kind of stuff so badly.
But I think it's also interesting too. I know a buddy of mine, a good friend of mine, is also gone through the Bethel school, and they're very intentional about creating community, creating connection online with professors, with other classmates. So I think that's the other thing too, is like, it's just that intentional community.
Yeah.
So
definitely. And I think like when you start to
which can be really challenging online.
Oh yeah.
It's a bit easier in person.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, I see people like, there's a YouTube channel called Yes Theory. Does anyone watch that?
Called what?
Yes Theory.
Oh yeah.
And they've created an actual in-person community. And so like they do all these meetups all over the place.
Awesome.
And it's like, they'll all like, hey, I'm in, Berlin. Let's do this meetup on Saturday. And like, 50 people show up, and it's not even the YouTube channel guys that are doing it. It's like the people from their community have like a Facebook group, and they're like, hey, we're going to do this.
Yeah. There's a bunch of us here. Let's get together.
Yeah. Let's get together type thing. Awesome. And so it's like this interesting, like, YouTube channel. Like, that's the only reason why these guys are famous. And they have this community, and like there's just like these pop-up things, and it's even more fun is like, because the guys actually watch that Facebook group, and so like some of the guys, they were there filming, and that like people didn't know, and they showed up to the meetup, and like people were like, oh my gosh. So it was like super fun. But yeah.
I was just thinking when you talked about that old recording and it's still coming, just releasing something for you while you're there. It's like the whole idea that his word does not return void just makes me think it's not like a check that's void after so many days or something after, there isn't a
90 days,
date of expiration. Yeah. Like I know that's not exactly what that part's speaking to, but that just kind of like, that's how that hit me. I pictured an expiration date on like a packaged Holy Spirit thing. Like, no, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Expires 1973.
Yeah. Can we talk about something really important though?
Yes.
When our church is going to start back up the tape ministry?
I used to pick up a CD every week, and they haven't started doing that again yet.
Yeah.
They really miss picking up a CD every week.
One of my clients, I was at their church doing an install, and he rolled this card up, and I was like, "Oh," I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I have like 40 years of cassette tapes."
Oh, I think yep.
that I have to ingest for our archives, and I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yep, this box is 1964."
Oh,
and I'm like,
no.
"What?" He's like,
Wow.
"Yeah, that they recorded it in one way, and they converted it to cassette tape, and it's just been sitting there." And he's like, "We're trying to like get them before they like are bad and gone."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Do you really need that?" And he's like, "Well, the church has only had like 2 pastors in the last like 50 years. So there's people that still really like going back and like listening to his old sermons."
Wow.
So I'm like,
Wow.
Get an intern.
Yeah. Hey, get an engine.
was like-
Underpaid even. That's okay. Or not paid.
yeah, I was like, "Well, why don't you send them out to like, like Legacy Box or something and go, hey, can you just do this?" He's like, "Bro," he's like, "there's 52 of these for every year, and there's 40 years." He's like, "It was going to be like $30,000 to get it done by someone else." And he's like, "I bought this little contraption for like $300 offline, and I literally just hit play, and then I go off and I do a bunch of things, and I come back and I stop it because like the software like recognizes when no audio is playing anymore and
Yeah.
it stops recording.
Yep.
So it's not like 3 hours of like dead space that he has to cut off." And he's like, "Yep," and I just keep doing that. And he's like, "I told him that I would get what I could, and it would take however long it took." And they were like, "Okie dokie," and I'm like.
Okie dokie sounds like what you'd say if you got 40 years of recordings to go through. I think though, tape ministry, am I wrong? Is that really what these YouTube things, that's what it is for us?
It's a modern version of
It's
it.
the modern version of that.
It's modern version.
So instead of being like, hey, Gilda's stuck at home and
Gilda.
Geraldine is stuck at home and we got to bring her the cassette of today's, sermon.
Here's
'cause
your
she's really gonna be
homework.
touched. Yeah, here's your homework. Let's just
We've got to bring her the tape and the bulletin from this week. Yeah.
and a casserole or chicken noodle soup or something like that.
I mean, she's probably sick, so chicken noodle
So
soup.
chicken noodle
makes-
soup sounds good.
Yeah, makes sense.
Here's chicken noodle soup and something for your soul.
Oh, we should not talk about food. I'm so hungry right
Thank you. That was good.
Yeah.
now. That's a good connection there.
Oh man.
Okay, so are you guys all? Is everyone kind of good with this? Do you want to wrap up?
I feel like a lot of these things we could talk about forever. I
That's
think it
true.
also really does matter. Like it's our own experiences, our own expressions of church.
Yeah.
To every single one, there might be a different solution, and
Yeah,
I think that's also what's really cool about it too, is that there's different communities out there. So
Yeah, I think I would wrap up with this and say, take a hard, long look, think about it, right, and
talk to your leadership about it.
right, and figure out cast the vision for it. What is the purpose? What is the intention? And don't waste your time on something, because that's I think things that I've realized is sometimes the low viewership count at the beginning of something can be just because it's starting. But if you've been doing it for 2 years, and that viewership is still super, super low, could you not be spending your time more wisely creating something else like a church podcast or creating other sorts of content or just putting your energy somewhere else that's more effective, more fruitful?
Yeah. I'd say it's time to pray. If you're like, hey, it's been 4 years, I've had 7 viewers pretty consistently, but Justin, I really feel like I'm on the brink. It's around the corner. I know it is. You're like, man, I think you missed your jumping off point. Or you just really need to pray about this and see, maybe that is energy best spent somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's not necessarily that I think that like if you have 7 or 10 consistent viewers, because like that's about what we have is about 7 to 10, and it's one soul matters. But the question that I asked was, who are our consistent 10 viewers? And we went through that and we're like, okay, so if we were 2 weeks behind, it wouldn't change anything.
It wouldn't matter. But to me, too, it kind of begs the question of when you're looking at how much money should I be spending on doing this kind of thing? If that's all you got for this long period of time, and you're like, well, we want to put more money into this because if we increase the quality of the look, it's like, man, that's not always what it's about.
And I mean, that can play
but I think
into
that's
it,
kinda-
yeah, for sure. But yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, because yes, we are recording video for this for the first time. So if you're,
what?
If you're on YouTube,
been
you
on
can see
video?
me waving at you. Make sure
there.
I think I picked
subscribe.
something.
Up there.
Make sure you hit subscribe and all those kind of things. And then the answer to our trivia question.
I didn't Google it during the show.
Oh, it's a good thing.
No.
So you don't know?
No.
You
Any
know,
guesses?
you've got a guess?
I know what B and
Or did
C
you say-
stands for because I'm a video guy, but
Well, don't say it because then maybe that's a trivia question we'll use next week.
So
teaser.
it actually saddens me that I'm not sure that this is correct because I've been working with it since I was 13 years old.
Okay.
That was a long time ago. Okay, I'm just saying. It was a very long time ago.
I mean, you lived through the tape ministry.
Okay, Grandpa, let's get you home.
I was in
You went
charge
through
of
the
the
tape
tape ministry, but due to the fact that it carries a left and a right, I think that has something to do with it. And you got the X factor because it's so great.
Is that really your answer?
Is that even is that an answer?
Caleb's just like the look on Caleb's face, like, what did I just hear? hang on. That's like, what is that, Billy Madison? That is the dumbest answer
Oh yeah.
I've ever
Everybody
heard.
here is now dumber for hearing your answers. You attributed nothing to
That is part of the
humanities.
30 seconds of my life I will never
Never.
get back. Okay, for real, do you have an answer?
No, like I said, the transfer thing, the X part is the only part I think that I understand. But yeah, I've been using it for forever, and I've never bothered to know.
Me neither, which is why I wanted to ask this question. Caleb, do you know?
I think it's ground, left, right.
Well, that's pretty much what I said. But
So it stands for external line return.
Yeah, well, that's close.
I was thinking external.
Was it really?
Yeah,
Potentially. 'Cause what
that's-
else? What
that's
other thing is
three
X?
three Google searches that I did all came up with that answer. So I assumed that was accurate.
external, you know how many people get confused when I'm working with them, and I say, "Hey, hand me that XLR." They're like, Like mic
External
cable.
line.
Oh, okay. Could you imagine how confused they'd be? Like, sir, can you hand me the 50-foot external line? What return? Hand me the external line return, would you? The 50-footer.
You get a fishing line back.
Yeah.
Got a high impedance air gap in our external line return. What? The cable's not plugged in.
Oh, okay.
Guys, the external line return is not plugged in to the microphone. What? Am I right?
What?
Did you re-Google it?
Yeah.
External-
Yeah,
yeah.
you're
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been embarrassing.
Actually, it stands for exchange.
Exchange large rabbits.
All right. There's another thing I want to add to the podcast, and I want to I want to end on on a really good note. So, what is something that you're happy or excited about? Like something that was good that happened to you this week?
Since we were last here, and as we record this, my daughter was born, our first kid.
Woot woot!
Congratulations.
She was born 3 weeks early.
Oh,
She's doing great, and being a dad is amazing. So,
How much sleep are you getting?
It's awesome.
enough. My wife is very, very gracious and is also normally on a schedule of staying awake until 4 a.m. and sleeping until noon. And so her and the baby have kind of done that.
That's great.
Yeah.
You have something, Sean?
Oh, is there like an order to this?
No, I mean
I have to be next?
I was just asking you because you were looking at me like you had something.
Dang it. Something we're grateful for, right? Is it that
we're happy about.
Happy about?
We're excited about.
Actually,
I mean, it could be the Super Bowl.
this might be This might be crazy or sound dumb or cliche or whatever, but it's honestly being here right now, being here with you guys and doing this. I had to. I know. I had to miss out previously.
It's just Valentine's Day
And hearts. Yeah, no. This to me is this is a happy place. I'm gonna go now because I'm not welcome back.
And that's when we lost the co-host.
And we never had him back again.
You know,
Mine is like super, super stupid. But if you've been there, you know, I found the right filter for my shop vac.
Dude.
Like
Yeah.
I was at Harbor Freight, Home Depot. So I know there's other things that are going on in my life, but like
Were you looking for like a HEPA or something, or was it just like a
no, like
just a standard
the circular
filter?
one that
Yeah.
none of them fit my thing. I was just like pissed off.
The old hardware store
But
shuffle.
I found it
Yeah.
at Lowe's.
Oh, you found it? Okay. I was
Yeah, I got it now. We're good.
Lowe's. Now an official sponsor. No, wait.
Yeah,
no
yeah,
longer.
yeah.
Not an official sponsor.
no, not
what,
an official
NASCAR?
sponsor.
But
NASCAR.
what's the contact information? Reach out if you want to become an official sponsor.
I mean, yeah, you can just throw it in the comments. You can email me at justin.edmonds@gmail.com. Right?
Lowe's.
There you go. Yeah.
Building your home, building the church.
We could record this in a Lowe's.
It's-
We could record
We
this.
could.
Just
They'll
in
put, us,
the kitchen
they'll put us right
display?
back by the saw
Yeah.
where they do a couple of cuts for you for free.
So,
Sir?
so
We're gonna
one
just
of,
cut
one
this
of,
segment
Okay,
out.
cut.
so I had a.
I know that was really stupid.
No, I had a friend that played Halo like at MLG tournaments, and he got sponsored by Lowe's. They like paid for his airline tickets out there in his hotel, and he had to wear a Lowe's hat while he played, and that was it.
Hey,
I mean, that was like
I mean, I
12 years
guess.
ago, so
Hey.
can't really complain. For me, I also tool related. I found a Milwaukee cat crimper and a Milwaukee punch down tool. What?
oh,
They go along with all the rest of my Milwaukee tools.
are they just making everything now?
They're getting close.
Do they have a microwave yet?
No,
I saw
wish.
Makita has a
No.
microwave.
Yeah, they
Makita
do.
has a
Yeah, I
microwave?
want it so bad.
Does it run off?
Oh no, this just got off
Hold
the
on,
rails.
you
I'm
put
just gonna
two batteries
I'm
in
gonna
it.
put it in the pack out thing that's just the garage door style.
yeah.
Fuck, right
Hey,
in there.
my microwave, I know we're talking about
That's
heavy
actually a
stuff,
great
but my
idea, too.
microwave blew up, so I haven't had popcorn in a while. So I might be into this.
You're telling me I
Makita.
can run this on an 18-volt battery?
Okay, guys.
man.
All right. Yeah, this is awesome. Guys, again, thank you so much. Make sure you share this with 3 friends, not 4, well, maybe 4, not 2, but 3 friends, and subscribe. Thanks so much.
No less than 3.
No less than 3.